Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Derek here from Pacific Coast Auto. You guys know that already. And we're doing a live show here. Hopefully we're going to have no technical problems this time like we often do, but you know what? I'm not a technical person, so I don't know. These things happen, I suppose. So at the moment it looks like we've got nobody's watching at the moment. People will come in pretty soon, I hope. Okay, yeah, it looks like we're live. I can see it on the other computer. Now, typically we'll have Mike here for the beginning of this show, but he's down at the lot doing a pickup of two high aces that are going to be picked up today. He'll come back in probably about 20 minutes or maybe 25 minutes, depending on how long it takes for him to go and do that stuff. And in the meantime, just Mike picked these two cars, this one and this one, so we'll just go over this one while we're waiting for people to come and join us here. Okay, so if you want, you can search the Japanese auctions. This is a live auction search through 120 different auctions all across Japan. It's really fun to go and take a look at your own cars. Probably you've already seen the site, but if you haven't, you can see it down in the bottom left-hand corner there. It says auction.pacificcoastjdm.com. You go there and you basically get this site here where you can search the auctions in Japan. It's fun, it's great. You can even look for refrigerator trucks if you want, or a thermos truck, which is an odd translation, I guess like a heat insulated truck, or camping vehicles. And so look at that, 29 camping cars at the moment. Just a reminder though, don't send in any cars for me to look at that are from USS auctions. And actually that includes the JAA and the HAA auctions as well, because they're owned by USS. But anything that's JU or MyRive or LAA or KCAA, those are all okay to send in. Okay, so let's have a look at the ones that Mike sent in. And he actually found these on Saturdays, so that he picked them specifically for this video to have some vehicles to look at while people are coming in and joining the live chat. So this is a Legacy 402, and up until I guess when Mike showed me this one, I didn't realize that the S402 was available as a station wagon. I thought that only the S402 was available as a sedan, and so that's very cool. The station wagon version of the Legacy, the 402 is a special one of 400 units made, limited edition, and they typically have things like a better transmission, for example 6-speed instead of a 5-speed, typically about 15 to 20 horsepower faster than the regular version of it, and then limited edition and other trim pieces like body parts. As an example, this front lip here would be something that's exclusive to the 402. This front bumper would be exhaust. And then you get cool badges on the back to let everyone know that you're cool. I don't know if these wheels are the original wheels on the 402, so I'll just have a quick look here. And it looks like the WR blue is maybe and white were the popular colors for this. Well, black is a really nice color, but I think maybe the white or the blue are a better look. Okay, it appears that these would be the original wheels on it, which are multi-spoke, look like they're made by Oz. There's a better look at them. Or maybe even BBS. They have some wheels that look similar to that. And so these would be the original wheels on it. And so that's good. With a car like this, you do want to stay full original if you can. STI steering wheel. This one I believe is a 6-speed manual. Let's just go over the auction sheet. Ooh, look at that low mileage. Wow. Okay, so this is a 2008 Legacy Touring Wagon S402, auction grade 3.5 with an interior D and an exterior C. It's really weird to have an interior D for 26,800 kilometers, but maybe it'll explain here why that is the case. You get the same 6-speed manual as you get in the WRX Impreza. It's an original black. All of the goodies here, including a TV. And then the notes from the seller says purchased from user, first time at auction, and it's a one-owner vehicle. Comes with original Navi with digital TV tuner. This is an S402 limited edition car with SI drive, and I don't know what that is. It says Beltiatura seat. I don't know what a Beltiatura is. Let's see. Maybe that's a fancy name for fake leather? I don't know. Veltiatura. Okay, memory power seats. That's interesting that you get the memory seats in this one. That would be different from the standard version of the Legacy. And I think that you're putting out around 310 horsepower in this one through the four-wheel drive system. So windshield rock chip, interior scratched and wear and dirty, and then dashboard has large cracks in it. And unfortunately you can't see because it's too bright here, but large cracks in the dashboard, and that's maybe why it got a D grade interior, I suppose. Underside surface rust, rear spoiler paint peeling, dashboard is sticky. That's a little bit weird. Sometimes the finish or whatever material it's made out of will be affected by UV light, and then over time it becomes sticky. I know like Maseratis and some BMWs and Mercedes get sticky switchgear. And animal hair in the car, which I don't know how bad that is, but yeah, it might have been a dog carrying car. You never know. In my experience, the animal hair in a car is never something that's really that bad, but every once in a while, like maybe 1 in every 10, it'll be pretty bad. And then wheels are scratched, door mirrors are scratched, rock chip, and various scratches, dents. And then the body, let's have a look. Some medium scratch here, paint peeling on the back section, medium scratch in the back and over here. So I would consider the body maybe like a 6.5 out of 10 or 7 out of 10. It's not that bad, but it does have some medium scratches here and there. And then Subaru paint tends to be a little bit on the thin side, and so you can't get scratches out as well on a Subaru as you can on, say, a Toyota. I'm seeing the chat now. Few things. Bill's been sending some in that have been flagged by the auto spam. I think it doesn't like links in there. And then price-wise, it's starting at like $1,000,000 here, 980,000. And then with this low of mileage, it may be one of the lowest mileage S402s that are still available out there. So that might cause prices to be pretty expensive. Maybe somewhere in the range of 1.5 million or about 13,000 US dollars for that. And so I'm not sure how much extra you would value the S402 compared to the regular version of the Legacy, because if this wasn't the 402 in this condition, you'd probably see this going for somewhere around $3,000 instead of $13,000. And so I don't know. I don't even think that it's only about the S402. It's just the S402 mixed with the very low mileage would be ultra rare. Because again, they only sold 400 of these, and almost all of them are going to have mileage in the range of like 120,000, 150,000. Most people who buy Legacies put lots of miles on them, or kilometers, I guess, in the case of Japan. Okay, and we got one more here. This one, I made Mike fall in love with this car. It's an Altezza, and truth be told, I don't really like the look of the wagon version of the Altezza, even though I'm really into wagon versions of cars in general. I don't think that they got the styling right on it, and I think the original Altezza is not quite good enough looking. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not good, and you would think that like a Toyota made in the late 90s rear-wheel drive sedan would be exceptionally good looking, but I think it looks odd from some angles. Especially the front angle here, you can see it kind of slopes down. It gives a little bit of a weakness to the front end, whereas the back end is kind of robust. But anyways, the reason why we, and I mean Mike and I, have been loving this one is because this one comes with a 6-speed manual transmission. And then the Gita, which is the wagon version, they only made like maybe 2% of them in manuals, and most of them have 5 speeds. So to find one with the 6-speed manual is very unique. A 6-speed manual rear-wheel drive station wagon is a very rare beast. There aren't very many at all. I can think of like a front-wheel drive 6-speed manual station wagon, but I can't think of any other rear-wheel drives that came with a 6-speed. Even 5-speed manual station wagons are pretty rare, especially in Japan. I guess BMW, Mercedes-Benz, well, not Mercedes, BMW would make some six-speed manual rear-wheel drive station wagons, but it's definitely not a Japanese car. Condition, well, it's a 4cc. Let me just pull that picture back up. Where do you go? You're too big. I wish there was a way to shrink this picture, like to half this size and then stick it up in the corner. Anyways, we got medium scratches here, a big dent in the front fender, and that fender is this one, so you can't really see the dent, but a B3 would be a large dent that would need to be pulled. The rest of the body looks to be pretty good, and then 80,121 kilometers, first time at auction. Exterior has several small scratches in it. Interior is dirty, console scratched, headliner is dirty, and the underside of the bumper is scratched and mirror scratched. So, yeah, it's not bad. It's hard to find with the 6-speed manual. Not a lot of people are after these cars, and so you might be able to grab one for a pretty good deal. I think that body kits from the Altezza can go onto the Gita, because I believe that this rear bumper is the same unit that's used between the sedan and the station wagon. That might make it look a little bit nicer. If you lowered it and put on some really nice wheels, it could look good just with the stock bumpers, I think. And yeah, 6-speed manual, very cool. Unfortunately, it's not the RS200 engine. Even though it's a 2000cc, this is the AS200 engine, which means you get an inline 6-cylinder 2-liter engine. It puts out 150 horsepower instead of the 200 that the 4-cylinder does. It is a little bit weird of Toyota to do that, to make a car that comes in 6-cylinder and 4-cylinder, but then the 4-cylinder is the performance and more expensive version. 6-cylinders, you know, it's an older engine, but it's been updated over the ages. It's a 1G FSE engine, I believe. I think that they're direct injected for this car. I don't know for 100% though. And if they are, maybe they're the 170 horsepower ones. But a 6-cylinder is always going to be pretty smooth and nice feeling, and especially good with the 6-speed manual. Price-wise, I would think probably about $2,500 to $3,000 for this, plus cost of export. Hi Venom, thank you for joining the stream. 1964 Corvan. He says, lies, I'm here. That was at the beginning. I'm like, nobody's here, because it takes a while for it to update my numbers that I'm looking at here on my screen. Wormy from Arizona, what's up? Bill's on a motorcycle trip, that's cool. Derek Cleverly, hey, how you doing? Ooh, that Hilux Surf diesel is definitely desirable. We have one at the moment, but it's not US legal until December, so I'm going to repaint it in the meantime. One for sale. Motel internet sucks. Okay, so we got some questions that we can answer here for everybody. Feel free to post your questions in the comments section. Like I said earlier, but a lot of people may have missed this, Mike's out at the moment. He's going to be coming back in probably about 10 or 15 minutes here, depending on how soon he comes back. He's picking up 2 hiaces. And then when he comes back, he writes down the questions into a piece of paper, and then he reads them off to me. I'll just go through the comments for now, answering the questions as they come in. So if there's anything you wanted to know about importing cars from Japan, or about me, or about our company, or anything you ever wanted to know, just let me know, and we will try to get to most of your questions if we can. So we got a question here. Hi, can you please bring up a Toyota Hilux Surf with an original rating of 4 and 4.5? What's your opinion on the 2.7 liter gas compared to the 3 liter diesel? Thanks. From Carmen McGillis. Okay, a bunch of questions here. So first off, you didn't say which age of Surf that you wanted, and so it's a little bit tricky for me to guess, and there's a big difference between a lot of the Surfs. I suppose because you're talking about the 2.7 and the 3 liter diesel, you're looking at the older ones. And then a grade 4 or grade 4.5 of a car that's 25 years old is very much not going to happen. And then Hilux Surfs are a vehicle that's owned by people that are tough people, and they're going to end up damaging their car. Not like a BMW or a Mercedes, where people typically would take very good care of them. It's just a regular tough person's car. And as we can see here, these are the only ones that are at auction. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. And then we got auction grade 2, 2, no grade, 3R, 4R. So this one here would be the best of them. And we'll open that up. And I just want to open this one up as well, because this one here is the first generation of the Hilux Surf and has a removable back top. And when I was in high school, these were really cool vehicles that high schoolers could afford. Nowadays, you don't see too many of them back in the US. Very cool. I had a Toyota pickup truck, the one generation before this, when I was just out of high school. And it was an incredibly good truck. Here in Japan, they come with different engines too. Like this one here is a diesel. The US never got diesels. That one looks to be pretty rough. Okay, so here's a grade 4 version of the Hilux Surf. So painted in gunmetal, it looks like it's in really good condition. This bush bar in the front is a stock piece. I mean, it says Toyota on it, so I think that's pretty understandable to most people. It has a cool tailgate. The way it works is it is cool, but it's also a little bit annoying. In order to open this tailgate, you have to roll down this window first, and it electronically rolls down into this tailgate by putting the key in here. Or there's a button up at the front. And that takes time for it to go down. And it's annoying because you can't just quickly open it, throw something in, and then go. You have to wait for that to happen. And then if you want to open this back hatch, the window has to be all the way down, and then there's a handle on the inside which flips the tailgate down. It is cool that it has a tailgate you can sit on, and you can kind of do your camping things. You can use it as a shelf if you needed to. And it's kind of mini Land Cruiser style because they have tailgates too. Now, the question about the 2.7 or the diesel, they're both really good engines, but the diesel is going to be about twice as expensive. This one here has the 3-liter turbo diesel, and the diesels, they're expensive because they're more reliable, but they're not really more reliable. It's a little bit strange. So a diesel engine in general will be more reliable than a gas engine because they're built a heck of a lot stronger, because they need to maintain a higher compression ratio inside, and then they have less moving parts than a gasoline engine, and so there are fewer things that can possibly go wrong on them. The diesels, I think that these engines typically will go to 200,000, 300,000, sometimes 400,000 without troubles, and then the gasoline ones maybe a little bit less. They're still the 2.7, a fairly robust engine. Now, one of the best parts about importing one of these from Japan is you can get the diesel engine that you can't otherwise get in the USA. The USA was only gasoline versions, and I don't know which engine was in here, but I believe it was the same 2.7-liter engine. And that engine was also in the Tacoma in the States. And so if parts availability is important to you, then the gasoline one would be better. Like if you live in a rural area where it might take a really long time for you to get parts in, that might be a concern for you. But in general, most people want the diesel, and then only the people who get the gasoline are people who want to get this, but they can't afford the diesel because it's so much more expensive. This one being a diesel, a grade 4 with 100,000 kilometers on it, is probably going to go in the range of about $1 million, which is very high for a Surf, or about the same cost as the 70 series Land Cruiser Prado, which comes with the same engine. And I think in general more people would be wanting to go with a slightly worse condition Prado than they would a Hilux Surf for the same money. But it looks like an incredibly good one. The body is basically no problems. The worst problem on it looks like a mild dent in the roof. And then the roof is up high enough that you wouldn't be able to see it very much. Has the original wheels and basically the original everything that I can tell. It says interior dirty. Carpet has a medium stain. It has a warning lamp on. I don't know what that warning lamp is. I can't read this part. I could if I asked a Japanese person to do it, but I can't read that one. Mirrors scratched. Exterior has small scratches on it. Windows tinted and aftermarket stereo. Yeah, so $1 million yen. That's about what, 9,200 US dollars plus costs of importing it. So 12,000 US. But you also get one of the best Hilux Surfs, or kind of Forerunners. The Forerunner is the name of this in the States. Anyways, that was a lot of questions there. Let's go on to our next one. How can this one from Carmen McGillis? Wait a second. Are you the person who just asked that last one? Maybe not. Okay, so how concerned should you be about rust and frame corrosion on the frame? We are from Canada, so diesels were never made available in Canada. Okay, so in Canada, people in Canada, basically, unless you live in Vancouver, you know well about how bad rusty cars can be. After about 10 years, they start to deteriorate, especially in Eastern Canada. Here in Japan, although you do have to worry about rust, you don't have to worry about it as much. Even when the sheet here claims that there's corrosion on the car, it's going to be way better than what you would be able to find in Canada. And so, for the most part, I wouldn't worry about it too much. If you can get away with buying the car without having any corrosion on it, that's the best. But if there are some cars like older Land Cruisers and older Toyotas, you may only be able to find those cars if they have corrosion on them, or if you pay an awful lot of money. And so depending on the car, sometimes I say it's okay for you to go for one with corrosion on it. But that said, once the car reaches older than about 1984, then the corrosion is kind of, you're getting back into the point of being concerned again. So there are a lot of Land Cruisers, like every car from 1984 is going to have corrosion on it. And if you take a look at the sheet and it's showing no corrosion on it, that means that the car has gone through at least one phase of being rebuilt. And when you rebuild car bodies to fix the corrosion, it's often not done very well. And I find that the reason is that body shops here in Japan are either stupidly expensive, like $10,000 for a paint job, or they do a crummy job of replacing the rust, and it's done quick and dirty to send the car back through auction, because this is a little bit of a loophole, and definitely something you got to watch out for. When like there's a whole bunch of people that buy the rusted out cars, fix them as cheap as possible, send them back to auction, and then because of like the depth of information in these auction sheets can't be deep enough to really explain a bad condition repair. Like they might put W3 on there, but sometimes W3 is okay, sometimes it's bad. But these people know that these auction sheets can't understand when a cheap repair is done, so they don't spend very much time at all on it, use poor quality materials, paint that's going to fade in 2 years, body filler that's going to crack. They don't really know what they're doing, and there's a whole bunch of people doing this, so you do have to watch out. Land Cruiser 40s, unless you have an appetite for risk, you probably want to stay away from them. Same thing is happening with the Land Cruiser. Well, the 50 as well is gone. The 60 is pretty much gone too. And even high-end dealers do this too. Like maybe people have heard of like Flex Auto. They are a Land Cruiser. Maybe I'm getting non-Japanese. Oh, I'm getting Ford Flexes. So they do a lot of Land Cruisers like this. This one here is not that old, but what they'll do is they'll repaint it, they'll black out parts, put cool wheels on them, and then sell them for really high markup. Their business model takes rusty ones and then restores them, and in order for them to make good money, it's difficult for them to do a good job, I think. So I would be a little bit worried. I don't know, because I haven't dealt directly with their Land Cruisers, but we did buy a Hakosuka off of them, and it was a terrible experience. We spent like $5 million yen, like $40,000 on a Hakosuka, and it arrived broken. And we were like, hey, we just paid you like $40,000 for a car, and it's broken as soon as it arrives, so you better fix this. And they're like, nah, we don't want to do that. And so I would be very weary about the way that they handle Land Cruisers as well. Anyways, we got some cars that are coming in. Mike's just come back. Mike, where'd you go? Washing his hands? Are there still Subaru Impreza V6 Type Rs left in Japan? Yeah, there are a lot of them, but the Type Rs, especially if they're in good condition, are lots of money. You're in the range now of $10,000 to $15,000 for those, plus export fees. You can get them for a lot cheaper, but there are a lot of really bad ones too. And so it depends. You know, some people want to get a bad one. Some people don't realize how bad it is to have a bad car. And so, yeah. I see a lot of cars that have very fade side mirrors, but the rest of the paint on the vehicle is okay. Why is that? From David D. That's a pretty easy question to answer. When the vehicle body is painted, they'll paint like this. Paint the hood and the sides, and these fender pieces Like, actually, the fender pieces is a bad example, but they'll paint all of the things with the same grade of paint. And I don't know if they still do this now, but at least it was a thing in any time where clear coat was a thing. So that's the late 80s, 90s, 2000s. And probably nowadays they still do the same thing. And then the paint has different reactions depending on the surface that it's on. So if the paint is painted onto a metal surface, it's going to be affected differently by fade rates and by peeling rates than if it's on a plastic surface like door mirrors. So you'll find that spoilers and door mirrors and bumpers, they typically will fade faster than any other part of the body, except for perhaps any body that is perpendicular to the sun, so hoods and roofs. That's why they fade pretty fast too, is because they'll get the majority of the damage from the UV instead of it coming in on an angle which is less damaging to it. Hey Mike, how you doing?
Good.
Look what I got.
Yeah, what is that?
It's a box. And inside here is the solution to a problem that we no longer have.
Oh.
I told you about yesterday, right?
Yeah.
We're having stumbling points with our race car that we're building. And we're not even really building it. It's just we're taking someone else's race car and making it appropriate to race again. And it's so much more difficult than it needs to be.
Lesson
It always
learned for
is.
everyone else.
Okay, so there's some guy trying to sell me a 1992 Suzuki Jimny for $10,000. I would recommend not doing it unless it's one of the best Jimnys ever. Most Jimnys, you're looking at a landed cost of somewhere between $4,000 and $6,000 in reasonable condition. And so I'm not sure. There are some people who, they're the type of people that they always want life to be as profitable for them for the least amount of work possible. And they don't realize that hard work is how you make your way in business. And so we get these types of people quite frequently. And we typically try to turn them down from being our customers because we really don't want to have people who want fast money, because we would rather have customers that are in it for the long term. And we kind of know what it takes to be profitable in the industry. And if you're somebody who's expecting to put in 4 hours of work for $8,000 of profit, obviously there's no lineup there. It just wouldn't work. Otherwise, nobody in the world would do any other business except for importing cars. And as much as you tell some people that this isn't the case, they don't listen to you, because they do things like check the sold prices of cars, and then they go to the auction tool here and they check the past sales history of cars, and then they're like, wow, these cars are so cheap, but they're selling for so much in my country. But that's really not the whole story. This is kind of an established market now, and basically the prices in most countries reflect the prices in Japan, plus some markup for you, but not an awful lot, because as there is more opportunity, more people come in to fill that, and then price works its way down until it's a reasonable amount that only hardworking people can make any money on it, or scammers. And don't forget that. So it's hardworking people are scammers, and I would say the scammer side of it is much higher than the hardworking people. You also have a tiny little niche of people who think that they found the miracle way for them to get rich, and it really isn't. And these are the people who typically are trying to sell cars for much more money than they are worth. Not to say that you shouldn't, that's a lot of our business, is people who bring the cars into the country and then sell them, and then there's a reasonable amount of markup, which to most people is between $1,000 and $4,000 per car, depending on how much you've invested. And so if you buy a cheap car, you can expect a smaller margin. If you buy a more expensive car, of course you're putting more money in it, you can expect a higher margin on that. But a Jimny is not an expensive car. And most of the people who are looking for the biggest difference between what they bought it for and what they sell it for are people who buy the bottom 20% of the conditions of cars. So I don't know this person who's selling the Jimny for $10,000, but I wouldn't be surprised if this person has bought it for about $3,000 landed and is looking for that lucrative payoff by tarting up the vehicle a little bit in order to make it look like it's in better condition than it is. I may be a cynical person when talking about this, but I've kind of seen a lot of that kind of thing, and definitely, even if this is not the case, beware that that type of thing is fairly common. Anyways, I sound like I'm such a downer, aren't I?
No, I think there's a lot of things to be concerned about when you're just starting off importing. So I think it's reasonable to make people aware of them now, so that I don't get in trouble later on.
And then we're gonna get an email saying, "Hey, I'm the guy with that $10,000 Jimny, and you're such a mean dude, Derek."
Mean dude Derek.
Yeah, and then we'll say, if you don't want us to be a mean dude to you, don't buy from somebody else. I would laugh my head off if that was somebody we sold a car to. Derek, what are you doing? I thought we were pals, man. All right, so
I wasn't sure how many questions you'd already answered.
I've basically only been doing questions, but I did
okay.
go over the two cars that you sent in, the Altezza and the Legacy.
Sweet.
I'll just I got a few more questions here, so I'll go over those quickly. Yeah. Kinga M says, is the 2001 to 2003 Toyota Crown Estate with the 1JZ GTE a common car, or are they becoming rare? Really looking to buy one of this to be shipped to South Sudan through Mombasa. Yeah, okay, so I'd say that they're pretty common. The Crown with the turbo 1J. Pretty easy to buy, often owned previously by people who kept them in good condition, and they're fairly cheap. You can look to spend about $2,000 to $3,000 plus exporting costs and all of that. And they're fantastic cars. Amazing engine, high build quality, really good looks for a wagon. I like the boxiness of them too. Let's see if I can bring one up. Toyota. What are those? A JZS 171? Is that right?
Yes, the Majesta.
Crown station wagon. And let's see if we can find a 171 here. Well, there's 175s. The 175, I think, is the four-wheel drive one without a turbo. This one here is sold for like $500. No, like $320. And this one has the 2JZ with no turbo, so that puts out 215 horsepower. But it also says the engine check lamp is on, the TRC off lamp is on, the USC lamp is on, and the center pillar has scratches and dents. That's a little bit weird. And the front grille is cracked. The body's otherwise good, and then this one here has very low price, so it's definitely worth it, I think, even though it had those lamps on. Typically a lamp like that doesn't mean a catastrophic problem. Very cool. But then this next one here sold for $309, so that's a big difference. And so that's about $2,700 or so. So has a sunroof, has much lower mileage, but with this engine, it's a reliable engine. I wouldn't be too worried about it. And it looks like this person may have overpaid a bit, because this one isn't a turbo model. Looks like it's in good condition. Quite good condition. Very good body on here. It says the headlights are cloudy, and the exterior has some, like the chrome bits on the exterior are cloudy, and the rear underside is scratched and dented, but otherwise is in great condition. Has a sunroof, and I really quite like these from the rear. Very good looking. Which one, Mike? This one or Legacy wagon?
I like that the Legacy came in manual, so it's like a cheaper package.
Okay.
But if I could
Only-
get this one in manual, yeah,
If you could only pick one or the other in an automatic transmission.
this one.
Really?
Yeah.
Even at the price? Because this one is like 2 to 3 times more expensive than an automatic Legacy with the 280 horsepower.
But I love the 1JZ.
Me too.
So I'd do it.
And I really like the EJ20 engines, but the
Yeah.
1J is just so nice.
Yeah.
They're incredible.
Plus they're, I
309.
guess, less common too. I like that about them.
Yeah? Well, the Crowns are pretty common, but the Legacies are just ultra common.
Yeah.
And then around the world, the Crown would be much less common,
Yeah.
right? Legacies are everywhere, but
Yeah.
Crowns are basically only in Japan and a few other countries.
But I would love a Crown.
Someone's asking about an Evo 1, but I think I missed half of the question. He says, and how does it compare to the Evo 1? Let's see. Going up. I don't see any of your comments. Maybe he's referring to somebody else's comment.
Oh, Elias said no love for the Stager. There's a lot of love for the Stager in the office.
Yeah, we do like the Stagia, but I think that both Mike and I agree that the Legacy is a better car than the Stagia. Not the 260 RS though.
Yeah.
The 260 RS beats the Legacy, but it's also 4 times as expensive or so.
Yeah.
The 260 RS, in case you didn't know, is the Skyline engined version of the Stagia. And they're hot. 260 RS Stagia. So Skyline engine with the Skyline 4-wheel drive system, 5-speed manual transmission, 280 horsepower if you believe their dirty lies. I think they're around 310 or so, 310 horsepower. And fantastic to drive, and fantastic little engine. It's weird to think of that as a little engine, the 2.6 liter 6-cylinder, but that is a small engine. Nowadays, so many companies are making huge engines in their cars.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's pick some cars to take a look at. We're on for another 25 minutes here, so feel free to send in some cars. You got anything for me? I see there's someone sent in a Porsche 911.
Yeah, it's a Posaka 76.
Cool.
It was a Litus.
I'm looking at past sales here. Okay. So this is 1977. Here's a good example to talk about this. So this one here is graded as a 1977 car, but they don't say whether it's imported or if it was an originally a Japanese car. And so that means this car might not be in 1977. This date would have been the date of the first registration here in Japan. If this car was bought new as like a 68 or a 69 and then brought to Japan in 1977, we wouldn't know the date on there. Now, they have a spot on the auction sheet here to say what the original date was, but when you're buying Euro cars, this is something you always have to watch out for. And then this one, you can see there's modifications to it, like it has a different front lip, and I think it's a different rear spoiler, because I think that spoiler was only a 930 spoiler, and then this one here looks like it is a 3-liter non-turbo version. And I don't know Porsches well enough to know which year it would be from based on what pieces that it has. And starting price is $2.2 million, so $20,000. I don't know how much this is going to go for. It's at a specialty auction. Zip Osaka is a special auction for higher end cars, and mostly patroned by people in person instead of on the internet, because a lot of their high end cars they don't give full inspection sheets for. So it has been repainted by the looks of it. Its original white car hasn't been color changed, but there's uneven paint on both sides, it says, and then repainted here, here, and here. So full repaint has been done to it. It does look like too new of paint for a car that's 1977 or possibly older. And then comes with history sheets. They don't know which actual version of the 911 that it is. Like, is it a 911 SC, or is it just a regular 911, or 911S, or RS? It's obviously not one of those, because nobody would sell one without mentioning that. It says the hood and the rear hood dampers don't work. That's kind of on every Porsche 911. Exterior is white, original white, but the repaint of white, the auction house claims that it's not the exact shade of white, so they didn't use the correct color code. And this could have been a 2-part paint, because the original 1977 911 would have a paint that has the base coat and no clear coat. It would just have one paint in it. This was probably a clear coat paint, because not many shops will paint in, what is that called, the type of paint? Do you know? It's like a lacquer paint.
Oh.
When it's just a single stage, and like multiple coats with the shiny compound mixed in with the paint.
Oh, multiple layers.
Well, usually they'll do 2 or 3, depending on how well of a paint job it is.
The last time I had it was just called 3-layer pearl.
Wow!
But I don't know what that.
Anyways, the tail lens is cracked. Side glass molding comes up a little bit. Exhaust end has been modified. Suspension is modified with a question mark on there. Underside surface rust, scratches and dents. Aftermarket steering wheel, and the AC doesn't work. but it's actually not AC. It's just a cooler, which is an evaporative cooler. It's basically like AC without the chemicals in it. Looks like it's in incredible condition though. And so prices of 911s, I don't even want to guess because they are all over the place depending on the condition. And really, you have to be an expert nowadays to accurately pinpoint a price for a 1970s Porsche. If I were to guess, I would say we're somewhere in the range of about 5 million to 7 million here. No, not that high. 5, probably low fives, maybe as high as high fives for this. So somewhere in the range of about $45,000 plus export fees and shipping and stuff.
David D said acrylic enamel.
There you go. Thank you, David.
Yeah.
It is correct. That was the word that I was looking for. And this is a problem when you stuff your brain full of car knowledge and you're not incredibly smart person at recalling information in your brain. It's all in there somewhere. Yeah. It's just trying to find out where it is, the neural pathways. If anyone knows of any sort of a drug that helps with neural pathways, I would love to hear it, because I feel like I'd like to say it's like I feel like I'm getting older, so I'm getting forgetful, but as long as I can remember, I've been like that.
I think Joe Rogan has something on his podcast that's sponsored, and it's something, what's it called?
Alpha Brain.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've read the reviews on that, and people are like, this makes me feel really weird.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine. Yeah.
And I'm also kind of against the idea of taking a supplement that changes the way you are as a person. Yeah. I think. Not that I think it's a bad thing for other people, just for me it feels a little bit weird. I guess you missed my previous comment, says Gruesango. Okay, I wanted to get your opinion on the 93 to 94 GTO VR4 and the Evo 1 and how much are they going for these days. Thank you. Okay, GTOs are, the US legal ones are in the range of about 800, 600,000 to 800. Will you say that's right, Mike? You probably know better than I do. For the four-wheel drive turbo, 600,000 yen to 800,000. So that's like 5,500 to about 7,200 US dollars plus extra fees. Evo 1s, this is a little bit difficult of a question to answer because neither of them are extremely popular. Not popular, pardon me, extremely common at auctions. The GTOs are probably more common at auctions, but that's because the Evo 1s are better cars all around. And because of that, Evo 1s have been used up more than the GTOs were. Usually GTOs were owned by people who wanted a fast performance car and a good looking car, but they weren't so discerning that they wanted one of the best handling cars. And those people would typically go for the Evo 1. So the Evo 1 kind of fits into this group of Japanese cars, including like Supra, Skyline, Evo, Integra Type R, the Civic, like all of these, Silvia, all these are super famous Japanese cars. The GTO is always seen as an outlier, and it may be easier to find a good GTO than it is a good Evo 1. We've exported, I think, like 5 Evo 1s now, and maybe only 1 or 2 of them were in reasonable condition. And so the reasons why an Evo 1 is a better car is because it's lighter and more nimble and a lot easier to tune and simpler and less costs if things break. And then this is really important too when it's easy to modify. More aftermarket companies come to it, and so this makes an environment where it's easier to use this as a performance car compared to a car like the GTO, where nowadays it's going to be really hard to find parts for it. Especially parts to modify if that's what you want to do. And so if you're choosing one or the other, and I would say really go with whichever one that you like. For me, I don't really want either of the cars. I like the Evo 1 better, but I also like the fact that the GTO is an outlier, and it's something that not many people have seen. And I guess like it's not a slow car. It's still pretty fast. It's still four-wheel drive, and I think if you're a large person, an Evo 1 has more space in it than a GTO. Mike's a previous GTO owner, so what do you think about my comments there?
I agree. They're such different cars. Like the GTO is a tank, and the Evo is like light and nimble.
But on paper, they're so similar, right? Both 200. Well, the GTO has always been 280 horsepower, and the first Evos were 220 horsepower, or maybe even 215 or something. And then they're both four-wheel drive cars from Mitsubishi.
I don't like how the GTO is a transverse engine. That was always my biggest problem with it. It didn't feel...
The Evos are transverse engines too, though.
Yeah, but I've never driven one for a long time.
I want you to drive one next to a GTO. I want to do that too. I've never actually driven a GTO. Everything I know about it. Well, we've bought them and we've exported them, and I've like pulled them in a parking lot into different parking spots, but I've never actually taken one on the road.
Really well for a heavy car, but like on a tight road, like in Japan, I think they're out of place. Like in the USA, they'd be better suited.
Your website is not working for me. I'm sorry, 1964 Corvan. Maybe with our 34 viewers on this site, we have overloaded the servers. I'm joking about that. I don't know which part of the website that's not working. Let's see if the... website's working for me. So I don't know. Derek Cleverly says, much love for both gens of the MR2. I say the MR2 first generation is better than the second, but I think that that's probably the less popular of the two, especially since the second is an extraordinarily good car. But the first one is very Spartan. Spartan? Smitten? Spartan. Smitten, Spartan,
like,
Spartan.
What? I'm confused.
I love the 4AG engine in it. I love the fact that it's really, really light, and I love the Transformers aesthetics of it, like the boxiness, and the dashboard feels very cool because the front end is very short and it's angled steeply down, and you can't see any of the front unless you put the headlights up. And then the dashboard, like the windshield, is down below your eye level by quite a bit, and so it feels very neat to drive one. Thoughts on the Citroën C2 VTS? I'm sorry, I don't even know what that car is.
He sent a link.
I do like the C2. I don't know what this, what is it? VTS version is. But the C2 I think is great looks for a more modern looking car. And I like, for example, this kink in the back windshield, back window. It's kind of a cool design look. And I like small cars like this because you can make a small car fast easier than you can make a big car fast. So if the VTS is a performance version of it, then I think that's probably a cool car. But I don't have any experience with it otherwise. You'll find that most of the cars that we have knowledge about are cars that are in the range of about 10 to 30 or 40 years old, because we just don't sell too many of the newer cars. All right, why don't we take a look at another car? What do you got, Mike?
There is a Citroën if you want it.
Yeah?
131 Zip or something. That's from Elias as well. Or I have a Honda Civic EP3.
These ones come up for auction every once in a while. They're really weird.
James.
So Citroën made two kind of famous cars back in the day. And one of them was the DX, which is the more famous of them. And then this one here is the SM, which is the less famous, but still a fairly famous French car. These are cool cars, and everything that Citroën made at the time was very cool. Look at the steering wheel. I don't know if you can see. It's missing one of the spokes. It's funny, last week we were just talking about something like that, right? The Subaru Isilone. Isilone. Yeah. So, interesting car. They use like a hydropneumatic suspension? Hydroelastic suspension? Something weird like that. And yeah, the suspension is self-leveling, which is very cool, especially for an old car like this. I don't really know an awful lot about them, but they're definitely a car that I'd want to look more into. I'd love to tinker around with one of them and try driving it out for a while. Starting price of 1.8 makes it pretty hard though. And we've only ever bid on these very few times and never actually sold one. Looks like there's some corrosion on the back, corrosion here, corrosion here. It looks like if you're looking for 1.8 for one of these with that much corrosion, you're asking for a lot. But mind you, it does have really low mileage at 54,000 kilometers. Seat wrinkles and rips, underside surface rust and corrosion, scratches and dents. Full body has been repainted to the original gray color, and steering wheel is cracked.
It has one spoke on the steering wheel.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Yeah, I think you're right.
That's weird.
Single spoke steering wheel. At least it's symmetrical then.
Hmm.
And a 3-liter engine. I bet that's a carbureted engine too. What year is this? 1974. Man, French manufacturers had some of the coolest cars.
What?
I don't know how much I can guess on this one. Your guys' guess is as good as mine. It starts at 1.8.
I got another one. I got a Civic Type I EP3.
Derek says, "Oh hey Derek, have you gotten to drive a 1JZ GTE 70 Supra?" I have not. We've sold a number of them, but I've never actually had a chance to drive one. And then I mentioned a few of these live chats ago that I don't particularly like that generation of the Supra. And I don't really want to get into it because I'd be digging myself a hole. I don't think it's a bad car, but I feel like Toyota aimed that car in a direction and then made a correction for the Mark IV. And then because everybody likes the Mark IV, this correction was beneficial for them, or was the right move for them to make. They were making that car more like an American car. And Toyota was doing this a lot in the late 80s, was moving the company to be appreciated more by America because they were seeing a huge surge in popularity in America at the time. So they wanted to make cars that were more American, but they didn't realize that a lot of what was making them popular was that they weren't American. The Mark III is kind of a boat, but it's kind of the same as the Mark IV in that respect, and people don't usually call the Mark IV a boat. So I don't think that's really why I don't really care for it that much. I just think maybe because I really, really appreciate cars like the 8.6 and the Celica, especially the rear-wheel drive ones, that the Supra is just adding unnecessity to the car. The cars that are already pretty amazing. And I'm not one that really likes outright power, and so I'd much rather have a small, nibble car that's underpowered than a faster Grand Touring style car. And maybe that's part of it too, is I just generally don't like Grand Touring cars. Hello from Halifax, fellas. Where's my car? Who is that? Oh, I know who that is. I always say that. That is that guy. It's the guy.
It's the guy. We got the guy in the chat. Woohoo!
People say Soarer is a boat too, but that's in the same field. And that's a funny thing too, because I quite like the Soarer better than the Supra, even though like the second generation Soarer and the third generation Supra are running the same chassis. They're the same basic car, but for some reason the styling of the Soarer really does it to me because it's sort of understated. And this is a little bit weird too, because the Supra has pop-up headlights, and usually when those headlights pop up, I'm like, oh, my clothes is disappearing.
I've gone bare-chested.
I've grown chest hair finally. That is a little bit weird.
Yeah.
To me, the Soarer feels like a smaller car than the Supra, even though they really aren't. So I don't know. Hey, Nicholas DeSaltles is in the chat. Hey, Nick. Is that okay to call you Nick? Nicholas? Yeah, we got a full 28 people. Our max was 37, which is pretty low compared to what we usually do.
It's just the regulars.
Yeah.
We got the main crew.
All our favorite people are in the chat. Let's look at another car.
LAA Okayama 1042.
Someone was asking about minis in Japan. Are they left or right-hand drive? I believe you can buy them in both here in Japan. For most models. Some of the specialty models might only be right-hand drive.
That was for James Tucker.
What car is this?
The Civic EP3 top one.
And we got 5 minutes left on the chat. Okay, so we've only bought 2 of these. A lot of people don't like them. I drove it and I quite liked it, but I can see why people don't like them that much. Honda cheaped out on this car when they made it because they realized if you make expensive cars and sell them for reasonable prices, you don't make enough money to stay in business. And so sometimes a company has to do something like move into a cheaper engineered car. This was kind of a point that's a little bit sad because Honda's cars up until this point were amazing cars, very well engineered, and kind of the subtle weird things that I appreciate in cars, I always felt like the Toyota engineers appreciated that same like piece of paper with things written on it of the things that I appreciate. These days, not so much, although I still like Honda very much. The car is good, the engine is good, it's just the generation before it was better. And to be honest, you can't really continue making everything better and better and better and better, because that's a gaijin on the phone. Because if you try to do that, then you end up in a mindset that any improvements to your car have to be incremental, otherwise you won't be able to overcome them the next time. And that's something that I think is very worrisome for a company that makes cars.
Okay.
Whoever types upside down, that is creepy. I didn't realize that you can do that. Inventory cars that are for sale. We really don't have inventory cars that are for sale. We have like 6 of them in our inventory right now, but they're only for circumstantial reasons. We don't buy them for the purpose of selling them. And then we don't typically want to get that much of a profit off of them either. If you're looking for like a car and you don't want to go through auctions, then you can go through a company called GooNet.
Okay, sorry, bear with me just a moment.
And then there's an English version of it here. And then this is like a car trade website that all the dealers will. That one's actually not it.
Oh, we got a super chat. John Blanton.
I will answer this first.
Okay. I'm just gonna take that call, if that's okay.
Yep, that's cool. Yeah, we're pretty much done in 3 minutes here anyway.
Yeah.
And so GooNet here, all the car dealers in Japan will register for either GooNet or the other one, Car Sensor, but GooNet is usually they'll use both systems. And so there aren't very many cars that are on one, but they're not on the other. And then GooNet, you can browse in English here, and then you can pick cars that you want. So let's have a look. Let's see if we can find any 6-speed manual Altezza Gitas, like at the beginning of this chat we were talking about them.
Okay.
Let's see. Transmission. Manual. Search.
Okay.
And they don't say how many gears are in them there, I guess. But you can see the prices here: 719, 1.2, 580, 680, 448. And then
right.
We were just looking at one. Let's see if we can find that again. There it is. And I said it's probably somewhere in the range of $2,000, so 250,000 yen. And then if you compare 250,000 yen to these ones here, it's easy to see that it's really unnecessary to pay for the dealer's markup in most cases. Now, buying from dealers, you'll get more information, you'll get more pictures, and to a lot of people, the pictures really say a lot about the cars. But you also have to remember that you're also buying from somebody, and all your information comes from the person who profits off of it. So if they sneak and don't tell you about a little bit of the information for the car, they might be able to make more money from that. And I really don't like that. And that's part of the reason why we don't do too many inventory cars. I'm not saying that I don't want to in the future, but I don't like the idea of I have an ability to make more profit by competing against you as the customer. If that makes any sense. Because our business model right now, it's in our best interest to make the most value for our customers. If we're the ones selling the cars, then any extra value we give the customer comes at the expense of us as a business. And so that's why I prefer to do the business as a purchasing agent instead of somebody who sells cars. Anyways, back to John Blayton. John, thank you. I love it. Thank you. PCA rocks. Love the weekly streams. Thank you, John, for sending us in some super chat. We always appreciate that. And we're not a big channel on YouTube. We don't get very many super chats, and so we extra appreciate them, I think, compared to most people. We're at 12 o'clock here. There are some questions that we didn't answer. There are always lots of questions that we didn't answer. And so if you do really want to get your questions answered, you can give us a call. Like right now, Mike's on the phone, and he's answering questions to somebody. And so definitely you can give us a call. We're pretty easygoing people, and we would like to help you on the phone if we can. But for now, we're going to have to close this up, and we'll be back again next week. Goodbye, everybody. See you later.